Hello, everybody. It's 𝗤𝘂 Eisenhower. I'm not kidding when I say really critical astrological updates and alignments. It's just like, wow. I hope I can really explain it well. But let's start off with this week. This week, we have a partial lunar eclipse, which is in the sign Taurus, opposite the sun in the sign of Scorpio. So we'll just kind of start there. Eclipses are very powerful, and being a full moon, it is even more intensified than a normal full moon. Eclipses also connect to the nodal axis, and we're going through a nodal axis shift from Sagittarius as the south node and the north node as Gemini, and now it's moving into south node Scorpio, north node Taurus, right? So this particular full moon, being the moon in Taurus and the sun in Scorpio, is starting to warm us up for this major nodal shift, which is happening in December 22nd. So I know explaining astrological alignments and stuff, there's a lot of terminologies that aren't familiar with people, but I'm going to try and explain it as we go along. So the south and north node is really about the growth period that is underway for us on a soul level. And when it comes to planetary transits, it has to do with the greater growth period that we're going through as a humanity. And our own personal natal chart is going to be a little bit more personal, connected to past lives, and also, you know, what we need to step into and integrate. To explain all the mechanics of how it works, well, the symbolism is like the 𝗟𝘂𝗿𝗆, the serpent biting its tail. They're not planets, but it's a nodal axis. So when the eclipse happens, it's in alignment with that. And for about 2 years, the eclipses impact the pairing of the two particular zodiac signs, and then they shift and move. So we're about to go through a shift from Gemini, Sagittarius to Scorpio, Taurus. So the first one being south node, Sagittarius, north node, Gemini, had a lot to do with our throat chakra, communication, the need to step into that and integrate that. The Sagittarian energy, which is the south node represents like the past and things that are very familiar. It can sometimes act as a default. So a Sagittarian south node has encouraged us to kind of go within and access the energies of Sagittarius in relation to what it represents, which is all about adventure, philosophy, open-mindedness. It's ruled by Jupiter. So if that's been a south node, that's been a very important thing for us to reflect upon. But because a south node is something that we're kind of moving on from to integrate the north node, well, we cycle back into the south node. So it's just a matter of like integration of polarity. It's all about integration of polarity. So going from like a Sagittarian sort of foundational energy that has been activated in the last couple of years, and the need to move into the north node, Gemini, to give it a voice, well, look at how targeted it's been. And that's the whole nature of how the Cabal works. The reason they kind of say that astrology is like a pseudoscience is because they don't want us to really have an interest in learning about it, because it really helps us to navigate this human realm, and it helps us to gain a lot of self-awareness. And that's very empowering, and they don't like us being empowered. So in this growth period that we've just gone through in the last 2 years, on top of the Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunctions, and just all sorts of other astrological aspects, Saturn square Uranus, which is still going to carry on till 2023, these intensified, periods, particularly when the outer planets are really activated. The outer planets, there's 3 of them, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. They're the most initiatory planets. Usually big events or false flag events take place when those energies are strong as transits. So that being when all this began to hit, in terms of, what I'm talking about, the stuff that's absolutely changed our world in terms of fear of death and how people are responding to it. Well, that has a lot to do with the Pluto transit. And what Pluto's really all about is death, rebirth, alchemy, and transformation. But we can't really go through that initiation if we're afraid of death. So, okay, there's that. Then like I was talking about, the Sagittarian South Node and the North Node being in Gemini, which the eclipse times really impact because it represents, you know, our growth period as a humanity, and the impact of those energies lasts for a long time. Well, look at where that's been targeted. Censorship, being masked. It's very hard to speak our truth. So even if we have a wealth of experience and wisdom to draw upon, which is very much the South Node Sagittarius, when it comes to being able to express it and step into and integrate that North Node energy on a collective level, there's major hijacking going on, and that's just the nature of it all. So, okay, number one, fear of death. Number two, suppression of information. Control of all of this stuff has been the tactic. And what it's really done is it just creates sort of a inversion, which is the name of the game in their dark agendas, but it also internalizes these energies within ourselves. And so we just have to just keep going with it and going forward, regardless of what tactics they try and use to shut us down. Okay, so now we're moving into this eclipse on Friday. It's going to be around 12:57 a.m. Pacific time, Friday morning. And it's actually going to be a very long eclipse. Most eclipses don't last as long as this one. This is probably one of the longest eclipses that we've experienced in the century, actually. And it's going to be about 3 hours long, maybe a little bit more than 3 hours long, which gives us a lot of time to really meditate on those energies. So you might want to stay up really late Thursday night, which will turn into Friday morning. And just, yeah, give yourself a space to really meditate. Because if we look at this and the fact that we're on the cusp of this particular eclipse being still the Sagittarian South Node, North Node Gemini, it's now shifting over to the South Node being Scorpio and the North Node being Taurus, which is where the moon activity and the sun activity is in opposition to each other. Not just that, but the Mars and Uranus opposition. Mars is in Scorpio, Uranus is in Taurus. So we're getting huge blasts, and we're being majorly prepared to begin to integrate the polarity of Scorpio and Taurus. Okay, another helpful thing though, in regards to this, is that there's going to be a harmonious aspect with Pluto during this eclipse time, but there will be a squared aspect with Jupiter. Jupiter expands everything that it touches, and it's going to magnify things. But the Pluto making a harmonious aspect is going to help us to process through and breathe through. But things are going to be very, very amplified. It's going to be pretty intense. Kind of depends where a person is on their journey. And there's a lot of other aspects I can bring in. But it looks good because as we move into Sunday, Mercury makes a harmonious aspect to Pluto. Mercury has to do with communication, our throat chakra, our ability to manifest through our thoughts, through our words. Making a harmonious aspect with Pluto after all this plutonic activity, and the sun being in Scorpio, Mars being in Scorpio, it's looking pretty good once the weekend starts to wrap up. Sunday, like I said, Mercury makes a harmonious aspect to Pluto, and the sun enters Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is where we've had the South Node. So we can really bring some of those energies forward. And with the Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini and also Virgo, this can give us an opportunity to really wrap up that cycle of the Sagittarian South Node, Gemini North Node that we've been experiencing for the last couple of years. So now we're preparing for Scorpio South Node, which means that's going to be our default, the Scorpio energy. Those that already have a strong scorpionic nature or plutonic nature, it's going to be a little bit easier. But I mean, Scorpio, it can take us into major, major dark night of the soul journeys. It can bring out a lot of our darkness. It's considered sort of the psychotherapist of the zodiac. So we have to be willing to hold space for ourselves to really release, really clear, and really process, because it's going to take us real deep. So that's going to be kind of our default, but we're also going to want to emerge from that, where we'll recognize we've gone through so many cycles of like death, rebirth, or loss, or just facing just triggers or death pictures, or just things related to the concept of death. Now it's time to move forward. So the best way we can move forward is to really work the energy of this eclipse to utilize the positive aspect with Pluto, and and do some major clearing and purging. And sometimes it just can be so overwhelming. And sometimes a lot of the stress that we feel is that we're not holding enough space for purging, whether that's through crying, whether it's through even, well, I don't know about throwing up, but yeah, when plant medicine ceremonies, that's kind of why that's a part of it. But just any way to release. Creativity is a great outlet. It's a little bit more fun than puking and crying, like painting and dancing. But we really, really want to set the stage. And it'll really help us to ground as we begin to prepare for moving out of the death cycles, dark night of the soul of the Scorpio aspect, especially with the sun sign in Scorpio, now moving into Sagittarius. Now all of a sudden, the nodal axis, which is going to begin to activate December 22nd, will be very ready to reflect on the Scorpio South Node, but really start to step into the North Node in Taurus. And the North Node represents what we're here to integrate and step into. It represents what the current growth period is in humanity. So we got to figure that the highest qualities are going to be somewhat targeted through narratives, through just all sorts of different tactics they use, psychological operations, trolls on the internet, just things to really kind of mess up our relationship with those kind of energies in that process. But we are stepping into the North Node Taurus. And Uranus is already in the sign of Taurus. And midway through 2022, the North Node is going to be conjunct Uranus. So this is going to really represent a time of bifurcation. If people aren't really starting to work the energy right now and they're really relying on outer authority or they're making decisions out of fear, it's going to be very, very difficult to get the full blast of what is to come next year. But I'm not into doom, gloom for anybody who's made whatever decision. It's just really important to maintain a love frequency and your truth frequency and do your best to mitigate whatever decisions you don't feel comfortable with or whatever concerns you have about the stuff that's in your body. This is a time of incredible healing and ability to transmute those things. So it's very important to find a connection with these initiations through really getting to know what your body is asking of you. Because we need the nutritional support, we need connection to our higher mind and intuition. The Scorpionic energy is going to help us with that. Okay. So just take a deep breath. So, okay, we're in a major preparation zone around December 22nd when the nodal axis shifts and we're starting to get ready for the growth period of North Node in Taurus. Taurus rules Venus. Taurus has things or has qualities that has to do with self-worth, that has to do with how we generate abundance, it has to do with our connection to the earth. It can bring us into a lot of stubbornness, but it's also very, very grounding. And it's a wonderful earth energy, especially with Uranus also being in the sign of Taurus, which, we're experiencing. Mars had a squared aspect with Saturn just like a week and a half ago, which created a lot of restriction. Squared aspects mean friction and challenge. So a lot of that is breaking down. People might start to, be noticing that the energy flow in their life is a little bit easier than it was maybe a week or two ago. But it's also intensifying, and maybe it's sort of like the floodgates are opening and things are moving too quickly. And things can very much feel out of control for people, like events are out of our control. And when things feel like they're out of our control, that's when our intent is most important. Meditating, really breathing in and making sure that our thought forms are aligned with our dreams and our visions, because this is a super creative time. And in these powerful, powerful creative cycles, these false narratives really want to infect our creative channels so that we continue to enable what they want to see. Because anything that has to do with an artificial timeline has to do with harvesting and siphoning our energies and infecting our creative channels so that we manifest what they want instead of what we want. So we need to make sure that we're riding the higher octaves of these planets, that we're willing to go through the discomfort of these initiations without sort of just giving our power away or thinking something's terribly wrong. Just got to keep breathing through it. Outer planets are very, very initiatory. I mean, even the last time Uranus was in the sign of Aquarius was right in the beginning of the Second World War. So look at that sabotage. Aquarius and Uranus is very much about awakening and the truth frequency. So if a society or a culture can convince its people to bypass these initiations and give their power to an agenda, then we've missed out on an incredible opportunity. And with the Pluto returns to the US, last time that happened was 1776. So these are really, really intense energies. And it's very easy in these kind of intensities to just say, it's too much. Some leader, somebody outside of me needs to solve it. Something needs to come and rescue it. It almost feels like too much, but it's not too much. It's everything about what this awakening is all about. It's really what we're here to wake up to. So I know some of the astrological terminology can throw a person off. So, I hope you can, maybe play it again and just take your time with it a little bit. But, okay, well, let's talk about the Mars Scorpio opposite Uranus. This is really breaking us free from the confining energies of the Mars square Saturn. So, like I said, some of the dams are bursting and we're creating breakthroughs. But as we go through maybe one breakthrough, a new challenge always inevitably arises, and we're surrounded by challenge right now. This is not about just what we're dealing with in our personal life. This is a global thing on levels and proportions that are beyond words, because this is such a prophesized and important window period. So any time there's something huge, something amazing, like a grand, incredible opportunity, there's going to be something to try and counteract it so that we can't achieve the greater goal. And most people know this is an ascension window period. And it's very much an ascension window period because of a timeline shift that took place in 2010 when the sun started to move through the 13th sign of 𝗑𝗨𝗃. So I've talked about that a lot, and I'm going to get into it a lot as we really enter the 𝗑𝗨𝗃 season. But it's the 13th sign, and it's ruled by ether, the ether elements. And the sun started to move through this 13th sign in 2010. So it's not an energy we're very used to. We've been dealing with reversal grid technologies and a lot of dark cycles of history. And this has been a very targeted window so that we don't appreciate or integrate the energetic codes that are coming in and the divine blueprint that's getting activated, and our capacity and ability to be able to upgrade our DNA. So I think I'm just going to do a quick share screen about 𝗑𝗨𝗃 because I'm not feeling so articulate right now. I'm tired, but I know this is just really important to share. Okay, so themes connected with 𝗑𝗨𝗃, which is November 30th to December 17th. Unification and wound healing. So look at these other energies that we have. The Great Attractor, December 6th and 9th. And the sun moving through the galactic center, November 19th and 23. So just kind of like look at that. So 𝗑𝗨𝗃, as far as where it sits, is opposite Orion. So when we look at the Orion Wars, it's very much being healed by this opposition. Because the thing with the zodiac is anything that's opposite each other gives us the opportunity to integrate the polarity in order to step into the 0 point. And so the beauty of the South Node and the North Node is that they're opposite each other. And so why would we be working with opposites on a greater soul level as being a greater growth period in our natal chart and in the larger scheme of things? Because on a soul level, we're here to integrate polarity. When we look at the zodiac, we're not just here to occupy a piece of the pie or just keep spinning in the patternings that we were born with. We're really here to grow from the different patternings and begin to appreciate maybe the things that take us out of our comfort level so we can integrate the polarity and get into the 0, which is like the center of the zodiac. And once we're in the center, then we're not so thrown around by all the energies. And 𝗑𝗨𝗃 actually brings us great ability to step into that 0 point because it neutralizes a lot of the difficult aspects in the squares and a lot of the different qualities and ether. So if you read this, creatrix connectivity, pure transparent crystalline light, divine mother and the cleansing power of cosmic love, recoding the DNA, aligning to the cosmic heart of Lyra, an Andromedan universal center, rebirthing, cleansing the blood, breath, and mitochondria. Divine fire water, ruled by Chiron, and basically it's ether. This phase is the solar alignment with the cosmic ether, which is at the core of the galactic center, which represents pouring of healing spiritual waters into the earth and humanity from Mother God. Previously, these waters were corrupted by entrapping the Mother Principle and gold ray seraphim on earth, capable of healing fallen angels even. Brings to light resurrection as it resides between Scorpio, in the Scorpio Sagittarian realm of like the alchemical part of it. So this also helps us to move beyond the negative programming and karma and control from NWA, NAA. So this is what I do presentations on, and I can get into way more detail. But it's really important to understand that this is available to us because we're breaking down like the Saturn moon matrix, and this is also something that can really help us with that. People always ask, okay, if there's a 13th sign, do I have to change my whole zodiac? No, only if you were born after 2010 would you want to make sure that that's included. And hold on, let me get the screen share off. Okay, let me just do this again so that you don't have to see. Okay, stop share. And so a lot of this information comes from Lisa Renee, and it's like, I can't begin to tell you how huge it is that this opens up to us. When we talk about alchemy and the whole essence of it, we are literally turning lead into gold. We're changing one form into another. It's very much the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. So if we're dealing with all this craziness in the world, and now the mother energy is available in ways that she hasn't been, and it has to do with the quintessence, the fifth element, and it's something that we're made of, and it's a part of who we are in our own divine blueprint, and also the planetary consciousness that surrounds us. And we're stepping into the Taurus energy with the full moon, the eclipse, and then the North Node, and then the Scorpionic energy, really preparing us to be able to step in to the Earth frequencies, to then begin to embrace the fact that Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, which is the planet of the Great Awakening, and truth, and activation of DNA. Obviously, on an astrological level, everything is all like in alignment with what ascension means and what it is. So what we're seeing on a world level, on a world stage level, is everything that wants the opposite to be achieved. So really, the most important thing is that we consciously unhook from it. Don't let all these scare tactics get the best of you. It's amazing to see how our reality can shift around us through our perceptions and our ability to own those, perceptions on a consistent level. I mean, that's the nature of miracles and magic. And I've had so many experiences where I've seen it firsthand. I know a lot of you have as well. Just even the power of healing. Somebody might say to someone, you'll never be able to walk again, and they still walk. So people might say, oh, this is all doom and gloom, or millions are going to die, billions, and AI is evil. I mean, we got to be careful with our words. We got to be careful with how we are perceiving things, because we don't need to limit ourselves. We have a creative imagination. And this is what connects us with source energy, the ether, the 0 point, and this amazing fifth element, which purifies the nucleic acids of our DNA and our own inner elementals. And once we get into the 0, we collapse these other timelines, and we really are unable to be siphoned from and manipulated. So even if there's temporary discomfort and a certain level of tyranny we have to put up with, and a lot of alarming events and situations that we're going to be witnessing, we have to keep our eye on the bigger picture. Because if we don't, it's a very uncomfortable time, no doubt. But we have to keep our eye on the bigger picture. And we have to just trust in something within us and our creative power, and something obviously much greater. Source, God source, goddess, earth, creator, everything. All the all the good stuff that the archons and these dark agendas really don't have anything on. So the most important thing is that we nurture that connection and that relationship, and make it like a daily practice, and particularly utilize this particular eclipse period. There's going to be another one, and I'll do another video closer to the time. And then 𝗑𝗨𝗪𝗪. 𝗑𝗨𝗪𝗪, I have to tell you, if a person really, really tunes into that for the time that it's super activated, and you take real good care of your physical health, and you give yourself plenty of rest, and you just really do what is necessary, no matter how painful and difficult it is, just let it out, let it flow, let it purge, let it express itself. Some unbelievable shifts can happen. Why would they call this an ascension window period if it was just going to lead to this? We have way more of a choice than we realize. And the most important thing is that we stay in a love frequency to assist those that are having a hard time in this awakening process to navigate these challenges, and know that somehow we can turn this AI around. It's been something that's been around for a long, long time, and we can handle it. You know how we can handle it is by being in our truth and living in an authentic way. Artificial intelligence can only really infiltrate and assimilate something that's not being true to itself. That's why they need programmings and indoctrination and psychological operations, so they can create sub-personalities that aren't true to who we are. I mean, that's the whole nature of social engineering and mind control, because it links to AI, because it's not authentic, it's artificial. Some of it might, be, obviously a trauma response. So, I mean, it has some basis, but it also has the ability to reintegrate and reconnect back to the soul and back to source, to then turn that AI into divine intelligence and into the truth frequency. And we can neutralize and take down this dark technology through doing this inner work, through doing this conscious work in our everyday life. And there's no room for fear, but we're human. So if fear shows up, work with it. Any lower emotion is something to be worked with and worked on. And I don't see like right or wrong choices. I see ones that'll take a little bit longer to undo once a person does wake up. But I mean, the only wrong I see is evil and harming those that aren't consenting, and of course, innocent children, and just a lot of these operations. But as far as how we're navigating this, let's not be so hard on ourselves. We're powerful, creative beings, and there might be better decisions we make than others, but we can always turn it around. Reality is fluid, and we have an incredible imagination, and our DNA is beginning to unlock, and we're beginning to upgrade our DNA, and it's actually a love story. It takes us into all these different levels of sacred union, alchemical marriage, and I talk a lot about it's a true love story. Us being on this human journey is actually an amazing, love story. So we're really like busting down the seals and the fences, moving through the gatekeepers, and they don't like it, of course. So there's going to be greater attack and more attempts to try and hijack, but just keep breathing through it. Don't take it personally. It's very easy to feel defeated or like you're failing. And just make sure you're around like-minded people who just hold love and understanding and compassion, because we all need to hold hands. Sometimes we're all going to take turns having difficult days. We're all going to need to help one another also move through a lot of the heartbreak and be really emotionally and spiritually and on every level as supportive as we possibly can to one another. And so even if my explanation of the astrological stuff kind of went over people's head, I hope you got something out of this. I'm going to be doing a presentation on conscious vitality where it's going to be a lot easier to kind of follow, and I'll kind of fine tune it a little bit more. But because this is happening Friday, early, 12:57 Pacific, and it's a really, really long eclipse, and we're shifting the nodal energies, I had to make sure I said something. And we're about to enter 𝗣𝗂𝗍𝗂 season, and then we'll be starting to really experience for the next couple of years the South Node Scorpio, North Node Taurus. And again, it's all about that integration of polarity. And because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and is very alchemical and transformative, that integration with the earth energies of Taurus can transform the world as we know it. Uranus being a part of it can help in more ways than we can imagine, bring a greater awakening to humanity. The shadow side of these planets in the lower octaves are things like transhumanism, and letting somebody else give us the false tech that gives us a sense of like solutions or some utopia that we're going to enter. And we have to remember we're the most advanced technology, and to be very, very careful of the problem, reaction, solution, and not externalize things so much. We are the shift. Allow the solutions, allow the inspirations to emerge and reveal themselves from within you. Be inspired for what comes in from, you know, what's around you. That's organic, that's nature, that's amongst community and amongst people that we know we can count on, instead of these mysterious characters that we know are linked to some really wicked crimes. Anyway, I hope that all made sense. And check out the description below this video. There's a lot of really incredible products that are really, really helping me during these times. On my website, cosmicgaia.org, you can find out about conscious vitality. It's an incredible platform. It's censorship free. There's so much more material than just mine, but I do a weekly show and unbelievable guests, things that I cannot share here on YouTube. And then on the products page, some of the best products I've ever had, some of the best blends and supplements and mushroom powders and EMF protection. Oh, it's awesome. And my Patriot Supply. If you're concerned at all about not having enough supplies, my Patriot Supply is a really easy and inexpensive way to stock up on food that will last you months. And we don't know when it's going to be very, very difficult. It already is getting to be that way, and the signs are there. It might be very, very difficult to get our needs met and get the food and the resources we need. So it's always good to make sure you have like a month's supply at least. And we're going to do this. The magic is here, particularly in the months ahead. Our ability to really access it is like no other time of the year, and no other time really in human history, because it's been a long time since the sun was moving through the 13th sign. And this is why this window period has been prophesized, and there's so much attention on it. So let's remember what this is about. The awakening is about waking up and remembering who we are. The conspiracy part of it is just a small part of it. So we know the different tactics being used to undermine us or limit us or indoctrinate us or lead us to believe that we're less than we actually are. Don't let any of these tactics work. Just keep empowering yourself. And as uncomfortable as it is, there's a breakthrough on every other side of what can be the most painful and just anxiety inducing. But anyway, I love all of you, and more to come. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye.